everyone, and welcome to the Changemakers podcast, where we chat with interesting and engaging individuals here and far about change, making change, living change in their own lives, how they've experienced unimaginable change, and innovative ways people uplift the lives of others. We chat about triumphs over tragedies, mindset matters, and how we live out our life's purpose inspirationally. So please join us to be inspired and empowered to be the change you want to see in this world. You know, we can all be change makers in our lives. Here's to the change you're about to bring forth. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Changemakers podcast. I'm Kimberly Rice, Chief Changemaker of Changemakers, where we create bold careers and lives. I could not be more excited to welcome our guest today, Lisa Linkowsky of Milestone Franchising. Lisa has a very interesting personal or professional journey that she's going to share with us. And I cannot wait for you to share her with you. So Lisa, welcome to our Changemaker podcast today.
Well, thank you so much for having me today.
Let's get started right in, and we can share with our listeners a bit about yourself. And
I have been in the business world for over 30 years, which, saying that out loud, it's shocking how fast that goes, but that is where I've been. I was in the corporate world. I worked for some pretty big Fortune 500 companies, as well as some small, really smaller companies. Then 7 years ago, after working from home as a project manager for 10 years, I opted to become an entrepreneur of owning my own first business, which was a franchise. Was the proud owner of a program called Birthday Pack. I ran for Bucks County, New Jersey. It was a direct marketing piece that went out to women for their birthday. Then I had to do the old pivot there when the pandemic hit. I've turned into all of that years of experience within franchising into becoming a certified franchise consultant.
Wow, there's a couple of things there that just, the bells are ringing. When you worked inside these large companies, were you in the role of some type of franchise responsibility within these organizations, or was completely new when you started your own entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, nothing related to franchising. Knew nothing about franchising except what I'd read in business school, and I heard the ads, from time to time on the radio, but didn't know anything about it. In corporate America, my background was marketing, and then it morphed into some account management, then it morphed into project management. So when this landed literally in my lap, but it was my mailbox, this direct marketing piece that was Birthday Pack, I reached out to them for a job. I was at a crossroads with my professional career. I reached out for a job because I really loved it as a marketer. I really loved it, resonated with me what they were doing. They said, well, we're not hiring, but we're going to be offering franchises. Are you interested? And I was like, what? No, franchising, what? And then I told my husband, I said, this literally landed here. We know no one that owns a franchise. We know nothing. We would never have known about this. And if I don't pursue it, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life.
So this is, to me, one of the questions, and that given the stark contrast between your corporate career and then having started an entrepreneurial journey, and then pivoting in the middle of that, how has your journey, down this track of business ownership impacted you and your life?
Wow. So I think that from the standpoint of why I even felt I could own my own business, the way that I look at it is that I loved when I would be at my job. I loved being in management meetings and hearing what all different managers were doing. And most people don't enjoy that at all, and they run for the hills with it. But I wanted to hear what all the different departments were doing. I wanted to hear how they were fixing things that had come up. That's a role of an entrepreneur, is it not? And wearing different hats, right? It is. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I look back now and I go, okay, I get it. I was always interested in all the different facets. So it was a natural progression for me. And the hardest thing for me was that I'd never done actual cold calling, which you had to do with this franchise. And I had to go get in my car and drive all around. And it was the worst winter in New Jersey, the year that I got started, the worst winter. We had snowstorm after snowstorm. And I was like, I love this. I'm having the best time ever because I needed that freedom. I'd worked from home for 10 years. And I was not going back into a corporate setting. I've been doing it well before it became the thing to do in 2020. And I needed my own autonomy. And I just didn't realize it until as it was all progressing.
It is a different way of experiencing our professional lives. You know, I was an employee for 23 years before I started my entrepreneurial journey. You know, you really can't, I mean, it's, I guess, just the small cliche, walk a mile in my shoes, because it's such a different experience, you know, one to the other. Both have, in my view, tremendous opportunities and tremendous challenges. If they're, you know, if you're a person who needs to be, you know, told what to do and just stay on task, entrepreneurial life is certainly not for that type of personality. But, you know, for us who are high achieving, energetic, creative, thrive on challenge, diversity, and change, which is, you know, obviously something close to my heart, then the sky, there is no limit. I wouldn't even say the sky's the limit. There is no limit, right?
Absolutely. 100%. With my franchise, I was the first franchise owner, which was even more daunting. So it's like, tie your hand behind your back, put a blindfold on, and woof, we're going for the ride. And so I helped the other franchises that had come on after me, and I was helping to train them, and I was helping to mentor in whatever capacity, and I was helping to work with our franchisor to make the system better and stronger and bring forth any concerns that we had. And that's really how I went into the role that I'm at now. I turned to my family and I said, whatever I'm doing right now, this thing, my business is doing well. I got it. I know it's under control. It's running. Whatever this is, I love this. So just it happened 3 years earlier than what I had expected.
You know, I mean, I think one of the greatest gifts in life is just to remain open.
Yeah.
Just open, because you never know what's right around the bend. You know, the pack landed in your mailbox, and all of a sudden an idea was born, and all of a sudden a career shift happens. I mean, you can't script some of these things that happen to us. And so to me, that's abundantly exciting. So I'm very eager, and I love the part of your business model that you like to, or you focus on introducing and engaging women for business ownership opportunities. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, so women are hugely underrepresented in the franchising space. They have been for a long time. And when I came into it, I recognized that right away. And my background has always been very male dominated. I came from manufacturing, and then I was in food safety. So I immediately came into this going, yeah, this is another area that there's not a whole heck of a lot of women out there. So because I worked in a franchise that was so female based, I said, you know, with this whole consulting thing, like, I really want to stay with that. And I want to, whatever way I can, beat that drum and let women know about business ownership and franchising specifically, because the guys get it. They are all over this, and they are having all the seats at the table, a huge amount of them, and they know what this brings. And I really want to let women know about that and make them more and more aware. And one of the ways that I'm doing that is when I talk to oftentimes men about business ownership, I say, if they're married, so, you know, does your wife know that we're talking today? And then they say yes or no. And then I say, I want her to come in on the calls and I want her to start, hearing all this. Well, right now I've become the couple whisperer and I now have all the women coming in and going, wait a second, I think I want to do this. And he can keep his job and I'm going to start doing this. And it's something I keep seeing over and over and over again, because I just don't think that they knew that this was an option.
I really feel like it's such an exciting time for women professionals that we truly, and this is, one of our Changemakers mottos, is we truly can create the career, the business of our dreams by charting our own course. So many things have come to a convergence of, it's socially acceptable, to work at home now, thanks to COVID, right? I mean, what an amazing shift in the mindset and the realities. And, some people may curse that you're working at home, but from there you can shift to maybe I have colleagues who work at a WeWork or a workspace, maybe 1 or 2 days a week just to get out of their home office. I mean, so there's more options now than there ever in our history ever been.
100%. I literally interviewed a candidate. She has a 4-month-old baby, and I could hear the baby murmuring in the background. And I said, do you need to go get her? And she looked at me like panic, because she was like, yeah, I do, but I'm in the middle of talking to you about owning a business. And I said, go get her. And we were on a Zoom, and she went and she got her, and she held her in the crook of her arm for the rest of the 45 minutes while we talked. And I got to gaze at a beautiful 4-month-old baby, right? Because my kid is going off to college. She sat there and I looked at her at the end of our meeting. I didn't talk about it the whole time. And at the very end, and I said, do you realize how lucky we are that we just had this conversation? This would never have taken place, ever. And I said, this was a defining moment for me as a mom and as a business owner and as a woman in the business world. Like, it was nothing that she just had a baby and she was just sitting there with the baby, and we conducted our discussion, and she is on her way to owning a business soon.
That's amazing. And I don't like to use the word should, but it just opens up so many doors when we expand our minds. And oftentimes, that's how change happens, is that, it's just a little bit at a time, then all of a sudden it just explodes, as long as we stay grounded in that growth mindset, that we don't have some preconceived notion, idea, or obligation feeling that we should, coulda, woulda, shoulda done something, that we have to follow some path of some ill-defined tradition. I think that I just don't think that works anymore.
No, there should be no set square boxes for everything that we're doing, and how it's all been thrown out the window. I was just talking to someone today about networking and the whole, as a mom trying to network and run around at night when my kids got activities and everyone's running all over the place, and it was very difficult. So I wasn't really able to do it, and I wasn't really able to engage. And I said, I hope that people are listening and that they're not just going to throw that kind of virtual networking out the window, because it is really efficient and it is a really great opportunity to get in, meet people, talk to them, and continue on.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, it's required us to focus more.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if it was you and I were talking about when we in person network. To me, I mean, I've always been a networker. I don't think most people do it, quote, properly, as far as really engaging in the relationship cultivation and following up and, giving before we ask for anything. It's just crazy. These people that go around and throw these business cards out. Well, that's done in the Zoom world, right? I mean, you get spun into breakout rooms and you have some meaningful, dialogue, and you have an opportunity to connect. I love that about, one of the good things that has come out of this pandemic, and that goes to the underscore of making change, is that we have pivoted and we make the change that we need to as the circumstances dictate. So speaking of change making, one of my favorite topics, let's talk a little bit about what does this look like in your world, in working with prospective new business owners. and looking at changing the model of business today versus business from yesteryear.
Wow. So that's a lot to unpack with that question. When I'm talking to candidates, I am really thoughtful about the fact that we are still in a pandemic, and we will be for a time. We're not coming out of this just instantaneously, and we don't know what's coming around the bend. So talking to them about franchise concepts that have a needs-based, process in place, right? That did well during the pandemic, because people don't want to say it out loud because they feel really bad, but there are businesses that have done really well throughout this, and they're going to be around again in the future. So I look to those, people go, oh, what's the shiny concept that's out there? I'm like, no interest here. Like, I have no interest in that. That's not what you want. And sometimes, and this is one of the messages that I tell women, is that some of these concepts are not sexy. They're not.
Right.
They're not sexy, but you don't care about sexy. You care about something that has a great return, that's giving you the work-life balance that you're looking for, that's checking whatever the boxes are that are important to you. And yeah, it might not sound like the most great aesthetically pleasing thing, but if it's checking those things for you, who cares?
Right.
What does it matter? Right? So these are the things that I tell everyone. I go, these are the things that I'll talk to all day long with people, because these concepts are out there and they're there for the taking, and they don't have to be something that you've heard of. They can be something that you never dreamt of, that you never woke up thinking about that day. And that's okay as well. But be open to that change. Be open that it is. And I always tell everyone, I go, whatever I'm going to show you, you've never thought about. I guarantee you. Go on the journey with me and let's learn about it. That's all I ask.
Wow. How exciting is that?
Yeah. Yeah. And I try not to make it a roller coaster ride.
Right.
I try, but it is a ride and it is a journey.
Sure.
And at the end of it, they're either going to say, yes, this is something that I feel in my heart and I feel really strongly about, or they're going to say, no, it's not for me. And as long as you've done everything that I've asked you to do in this whole process and done your due diligence, I can't argue with you about that. So I go, okay, all right, you've done everything. All right, and I'm going to wish you well.
That's awesome. I don't think that there's any richer life than the examining our, where we are in our journeys, professional, personal, and just remaining open and never stop learning, right? I mean, that's part of change making is in, when we make the commitment to change, make positive change in our lives and in the lives of others, it's remaining cognizant and aware of what's possible, right? And knowing all that we know, that there's always more that's possible.
Absolutely. And that's what I tell people. I go, stay in learning mode, and I'm going to keep you in learning mode. And if you start derailing from that, I'm going to gently bring you back on over, because that's all you're doing is you're just learning about something that you didn't know about. And there's no harm in that. The only thing that you lose with it is time, right? And time is precious, no doubt. But we waste so much time on nonsense all day long, every day, right?
Yes.
Just look at our phones and how much time that we sit there and envelop on that. So I go, just take the time and go through this and learn about it.
Be thoughtful and just be thoughtful. Wonderful. So one of my favorite questions to ask our guest is, if you could give your younger self one piece of professional advice, knowing what you know now, what would that be?
It's so funny. I was literally just asked this in a Fairleigh Dickinson has a program that they're doing where they're having young professionals learn about business. They have a 4-part series that they're doing. In fact, I'm doing the last part, which is interviewing this week. I was with a group of young students and they asked me that very question.
Oh.
And without even hesitating, I said, I did not network. I did not network, and I did not keep in touch with my mentors, people that I had grown really fond of in my business world. And we lost complete connection and complete, just gone. And I told them, I said, you're so fortunate with what you have today, that you in my world, we didn't have that. Now, yes, I could have picked up the phone or I could have written to someone, but when you leave a job, you probably didn't have their home address, like, right? And we didn't maybe have cell phones. Maybe I'm really dating myself, but things were very different.
Yes.
But that is my biggest regret, that I did not cultivate that and then keep it going in some way.
Yeah. And I mean, as you said, we didn't have the technology. And the technology, I might add, for our younger listeners, only came into being in the mid to late 90s. Now, I have stepchildren who were born in the 90s. So, I mean, it's all about perspective, but 25 years is not, in the span of a lifetime, is not a very long time. And you can take out the first 18, don't really count because you're just trying to find your way, so it's not a very long time. But now, in doing business and career counseling and development, I tell people, I tell clients all the time, whether they're business owners or employees, it's never been easier in the history of womankind to start a business or to advance your career. I mean, the whole LinkedIn and all the technological tools that we have, that are now part of our mainstream way of life, you and I didn't have. And so
you had a work email for someone, and then if they left, that was it. Like, you have no idea where they are. Like, maybe someone knew, but and then you got caught up in your new job wherever you were, and that was it. So yeah, I told all of them, I'm like, cultivate your networking, cultivate it, start now, and then keep building those relationships and keep staying in touch with people and keep talking to them, because we learn from each other. I don't care who you are. If you're not learning from other people, there's a problem. And you should be constantly be learning and constantly be listening, and just, that's how we evolve.
Yes, evolving. I mean, if we're open to evolving, I couldn't agree with you more. But on those evenings when the 1,000 channels just don't do the trick on our TVs, I'm flipping through LinkedIn and I think about people I formerly worked with in the 90s or the 80s, and I just kind of Google them up on LinkedIn. And recently I found someone that I worked with in the late 80s, actually, and I connected with him and we had a wonderful conversation. And I'm just curious as far as other people's paths and journeys. And I think that the lesson to that for me, and I've done that many, many times, is that we all crave connection. People crave this connection. And so I love it when people reach out and want to share or collaborate or whatever, because it's just a making for a whole new change making opportunity.
Absolutely. And I was in a networking call yesterday with someone who I'd spoken to a month earlier. So we're doing the right thing and coming back and talking with each other. And we got done our business that we needed. And then our whole rest of our discussion was about books. He's an avid reader. And we exchanged what our favorite books are. And we promised ourselves that we're going to come back and then talk about what we told each other was our favorite book. Like I said, where would this have ever happened? Like, this was just fantastic. And then I told my family about it. I was like, it was such a great conversation.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, Lisa, this has been fantastic. Certainly appreciative of your time and how you are so willingly giving to our audience and our listeners. And so I want to give you an opportunity, if there's anything additional that you'd like to share or to offer our audience around change making and what that's looked like in your professional journey and with your business, the franchising business, and how it's for, I would imagine, a certain type of personality or a person in a certain place in their life for milestone franchising.
So I think I would leave it with this. I was in a women's business panel last week, and they were talking about COVID and how it's affected everything. And they were talking about specifically women and how women have been affected. And they talked about, all sorts of different things as it went along with business. And one of the things that really struck me, sadly, was that they said that in a survey that women are still not helping other women in business. And I know that was the case when I was in corporate America. But I thought it had changed naively. I thought that it had somehow changed. And I think it's because in this world that I've been in now, that we've all been in, everyone's been so helpful and everyone's been helping and thoughtful and just doing whatever they can to move mountains for each other. So I was so set back when I heard that. So I think I would leave with you, because this is all about change, is doing whatever we can to lift up and to help our fellow people that are in our pod, in our world, and get them to whatever that next place is, for what, in whatever small way, in whatever big way, that we have to keep doing that. And especially women to women, yes. To not be doing that in the business world is just unthinkable for me. And so, I reach out when I'm networking, and I want to find women in all different areas that I can then refer and get, business in some way or some introductions for them. But we need to keep doing more and more of that, and not just, I know people, can roll their eyes and go, why do we just single out the women? Well, no, because it's important, but we should be doing it in life, period. And especially in the business space.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I feel the eye rolls, but I can tell you this, that women professionals, confront and are confronted with multiples more challenges, and particularly in the male-dominated spaces, which I'm not quite sure that there are not that many. That there are more male-dominated than there are not. That that we have so many more challenges than our male counterparts. Fact, game over. And so, one of the principles that I live by, I teach, I try to embody, is lifting as I climb. Lifting as I climb. I pull back and I help the younger crowd, 30s, 40s, whatever, 20s, because it's not an easy road, and we need each other, and there's no reason why we need to do it alone. So
absolutely.
Anyway, so let me ask you, what is the best way for our listeners to connect with you for any amount of reasons? I would love to connect you with some of our listeners.
Sure. So my website has all my contact information, and that is milestonefranchising.com, and that has everything that you need there. There's even a business builder assessment on there that people can take, and it's specific to franchise ownership, and it shows not only your business acumen, but it shows what kind of culture that you fit best with, and what kind of what your values are in business. It's a really incredible tool. It's called a Zoracle assessment. And so I have that right on there. If someone is listening to this and they want to take it, they get the results. And then if they don't understand it, they contact me and I'll walk them through it. But yeah, everything is there on my website, milestonefranchising.com.
Wonderful. Well, Lisa, thank you so much. This has been such a delightful exchange, and we wish you all the best with Milestone Franchise. You know that we're always here to support you. This concludes another episode of our Changemakers podcast, where we love to spotlight women change makers who are making positive change in their lives and in the lives of others. So until next time, I invite you to be the change you want to see in this world. Thank you.
Thank you.